Oh,
There we go.
I
All
can cut
right,
the beginning out.
5,
So don't worry.
4, 3. And we're live. And it's, well, 3 dorks. We're missing one. We do miss you, Trent. It's mid-conference season. It's halftime, so to speak. We're taking a break. I need a drink. I'll be honest. It's been a long run. I am at home, which I forgot where it was. I had to ask directions. Siri told me how to get here, and she said you haven't been here in a while. When your phone starts to tell you to go back to hotels as home, you know it's picked up too much of what you're doing. No, I'm here with my boys, Travis and Jonathan. It's just the dorks today. You're just getting us because we are taking a break, and we think all of our friends are out there, hopefully taking a break too. I'm gonna start introducing my drink because I want everyone out there to stay salty.
Yeah.
That's right. Stay salty. Use your element. If you haven't tried element yet, I am a huge fan. This is a recovery and what do you call it? Drink, a hydration drink and electrolytes. It's got a lot of salt in it, and I'm still training. So somehow I'm doing conference season and training season at the same time. Yeah. So I'm going element orange soda flavor.
Orange soda. Okay. I was just going to ask that because I drink the salty raspberry or whatever they call that one. That's one I prefer. And I'm glad you pointed that out. And I take those packets with me when I travel now too. One, because I also am trying to be better. I think a lot of us we'll talk about Procore, but saw Tahira Ali and Michael Phelps on stage talking about the staying fit and the mental health aspect of it. But so taking those drinks along to rehydrate, and I do tend to end up with a little bit of brown liquor in me at those conferences. So it helps with that too. If you don't want to run out to Walgreens and grab some Pedialyte, throw a couple element packets in your carry on. But I jumped in there, so I'll go ahead and introduce my drink for tonight. Because since we're in the conference theme, because I am not making it to Autodesk University in Las Vegas this year, I picked up Smoked Wagon Malted Straight Rye Whiskey from Las Vegas. Ooh. And I am mixing it in with a little club soda and lime juice, which is also a conference staple for me because, you have to stay hydrated. What about you, Jonathan?
I got a good one for you guys. I was at an eBiz conference in Nashville, and I had to go to the airport early. And I see this giant bourbon store in the airport, and it looks pretty new. And turns out it is brand new, and it's one of the first stores to offer bourbon tastings in an airport. And I walked up there. And
wait, where is this? I have to fly there.
Dude,
now.
It's right beyond security at the Nashville airport is literally Short Mountain. Oops, let's put it over here. Short Mountain Distillers, and they're doing tastings at the airport. I got to do one of the first tastings. Also got them to sign my bottle because the brewmasters were there and the owner was there and really talked about the product. I tried about 3 of them, and their bourbon whiskey was smooth. It was sweet. Like every once in a while, a bourbon gets sweet right, because sweet stuff to get right. Sweet can turn into like a headache, man, really bad, but this is not it. So if you are in the Nashville airport and you go through security, that the Short Mountain is right there. Pick up something. It's been a pretty good bourbon, man. Pretty good.
Now I'm going to have to follow news around that airport because I feel like they're going to have a problem with drunk people getting on their planes.
Well, it's $2 a tasting. Come on, we have to do something to appease the airport gods, but well worth it. And yeah, this is nice.
So, but you bought it? So did they go? So this is what I noticed because it's the only place I've ever watched anybody really, besides at like the duty free, ever buy liquor in the airport. Did they go through the process of the crazy bag?
Yes,
stealing?
It's in the. Yes. Yeah. So for anybody out there that's never bought alcohol in an airport, they put it in an unopenable bag so that you don't just open it up and start at it. And
it's truly like a huge fine if you do it.
Oh yeah.
And that the seal itself is the proof that you didn't do that.
Yeah.
For those of you that might need that might be the biggest nugget you get from this little conversation, is that they're going to do that. But man, I just went through the Nashville airport too, so I missed that. I need to pay attention.
I was literally there on their first day of being open, so like they might not have been opened yet, Jeff. I mean,
yeah,
it's
probably not.
entirely possible.
Which
Possible.
Was that, you said that was at eBiz, right? Yeah.
Yeah, at eBiz. I think I was on American flight, so I'm going to say it's the American pre-check, right in front of the American pre-check security.
Okay.
They actually they were offering free tours of their distillery too, right there. They were like, "Hey, here's 2 free tours. Head down to the distillery." So, good place to check out.
Those are so much fun. We're talking about nerding about stuff on the show all the time. Like I just love it. I love the process. I love watching those people get passionate about the process, and it's just cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was there for talk. So it was in the IGI conference, which was right a couple weeks before. So I probably missed that opening, actually. Yeah, so with that, we're going to talk conferences. So we all have our favorites. I don't know about you guys. Mine starts every year with the same show. And Travis, I don't think I saw you there. I know you were close by in the ethos, because you were at Advancing Construction Technology and I was at AGC IT Forum in Chicago in August, right? So why don't we start there, man? Like that was kind of the kickoff, right? Unless there was one before that. I don't remember any. That to me is the start of the season.
Yeah, it does feel like the start of the season. I think that I'm sure, I think we've talked before. You could probably be somewhere every week of the year if you really wanted to, like especially if you layer in like local events. But I would say probably that Advancing Construction Technology is probably the kickoff. It was it's a Hanson Wade event. And one of the things that I've always said that they do really well is in building out the agenda, and then having speakers come in to speak about it, because I think that a lot of times what we've experienced from our conference going is everybody's pitching ideas, right? We're all pitching ideas. We're all trying to come up with concepts and stuff like that. And you either end up with maybe some of the same things that happen over and over again because someone is really good about speaking about that topic, or it's just, it doesn't feel always like maybe the best topics get chosen, and they do it a little bit differently. They do put together the agenda. They call around to the people that have spoken before, tell them ask them what they think about the different topics, and then ask people who have presented before them what they think, or if they feel like they could present on a particular topic. And I do kind of like it to a point. Sometimes it's probably a little bit too rigid. I do talk about whatever I'm going to talk about anyway, but it's kind of nice to have that little roadmap there.
Yeah, it's nice to have a roadmap. But yeah, so that was the kickoff. I remember seeing everybody there. I came in not a night early, but just the evening before the AGC IT Forum, which is always the kickoff for me, and is always, it's an interesting group, right? Because there's not a lot of IT conferences. In fact, as far as I know, it's really the only IT focused one. And it to me, it lays the groundwork every year for what I see other people at other shows, what they're concerned with and what they're focused on. I feel like IT is sort of the ones who they're not the ones necessarily at every company, and I actually don't believe they should be the ones chasing tech, but they sort of know what tech is being pushed at them or being searched for. So I'm interested, overall, if there was any overarching, Jonathan, for you, or Travis, you, for the year, of kind of what are some of the overarching themes you're seeing through each conferences, and where maybe you saw them. I can kick a few of the ones I've seen too as we go through it.
You want to start us out, Travis?
Oh yeah, sure. I think that there's probably 3 big themes that I saw. So to cover the ones that I've been at, Advancing Construction Technology, MCA, fabrication, and Procore. I feel really bad. We were talking about this before we started recording. It's possible with all the travel that we do that I've been to a different one, another one in there that I'm not quite remembering yet. So I apologize, but um, and I'll put the asterisks on the fab one because that one's slightly more specialized than the other two. But I would say probably the big three major themes are data, artificial intelligence, and interoperability. And that was actually really a big theme at Procore this year because they had some. Well, Jeff, you said this at on the crew. They had some pretty big announcements around that. So those were the kind of the big three topics that I was seeing a lot of.
Travis, I wanted you to go first because I was like thinking, I'm trying to fold together the conference that I've been to. I've been to 3 dramatically different conferences. I've been to the fabrication convention, and then I've been to eBiz, which is by Idea, which is a connector of data to electrical purchasing apps, electrical distributors, manufacturers, products. It's basically a huge API in the cloud that's got all of this product data behind it, and statusing and all these things. So it and then the last one was Nika National. So these are not cohesive. I think I'd agree with you about the data one. I do think that I feel like all of the talk that I heard about data was somewhat immature still. Like people are still trying to get their hands around it. They're doing a lot of really interesting graphs and dashboards. And when I ask them how that data is really being used, they can't really tell me other than the dashboard or the graph. So I feel like we have some road to make up there. Definitely purchasing as a profit center. So purchasing, it's always been a side note. It's for a lot of the contractors, it's not something that was overly digital. Now we're looking at purchasing, as a profit center, as something that's digital, and something that we can then leverage. I think the last thing, and I know this isn't a theme at the others, it just became my theme, was Ryan Hoggett. We were at his shop for fabrication, and he was talking about his welders, and he goes, "Hey, these welders are maxed. They are not going to weld more inches per foot." And so he's like talking about how to maximize his productivity and everything else. It's like, I got to look at the environment. I got to look at everything else. And that's why I think the purchasing and the data and everything gets in there, is because we've got to this point where our workforce is being used really well. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to overwork them, and end up losing what's actual production from them. So I think it was really cool to hear him say that. I heard a bunch of other people say that from then on. And it even crept into like some of the stuff that was talked about in Nika. We have a workforce that's being looked to that knows it has a huge shortage, and we have to find a way to make them more productive, to make our jobs still be built, but just use less labor. And I think that really puts the spotlight on tech. I think the spotlight on tech moving forward is going to get brighter and brighter and brighter, because you can certainly deploy a lot more technology workforce than you can actual human workforce. So I would say for me, those were the 3. I don't think it's, again, 3 vastly different formats or, events. How about you, Jeff? You out of the 999 events you had, could you maybe come up with maybe 3 or 4 ideas that really did go through them all?
Actually, yeah, this was interesting because I'm going to do this at the end of the season as well, coming up with a couple of other folks that are doing the run, sort of a similar run as I am, to kind of recap it, because a couple of things are coming out. So, man, I'm with you, Travis. I like that you already did the asterisks. Like, if I forget you, I apologize. Some days I don't know where I am. I did AGC IT conference. I did the Talk Industrial Grade Innovation Conference. I did the MCAA Fab Conference. I did the Construction Users Roundtable. I did a workshop day with them at their environmental, social, and governance kind of sustainability meeting. I did Groundbreak, and I did the first ever DBIA Liberty chapter event in New York City last week. So that's the run I've been on. Wildly different, all over the place, trades, everything. first and foremost that I got to go there is mental health. Mental health and awareness is at all of them. And there's a common thread through all of them about really focusing on the impacts that the industry is experiencing, where we are truly. Unfortunately, we topped the rankings. It's a number one we don't want. We like number ones, except this one. We're number one in suicide for the US, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. And that was highlighted, on the stage at Groundbreak. And I think Get Construction Talking that Groundbreak and the Procore team is working on is awesome in coordination with Fred Mills. I got to hang with my boy Fred Mills again for a little bit, which is always a treat. So that's a big one. The other ones you guys are talking about are, but something I think that, I'm always looking for the undertone one. And it speaks to exactly what you two are talking about is we're at this point in, I think each of the trades and the general contractors and even in architects and owners, like we've realized we don't have enough people, and we were using cool tech to do cool things, but they weren't connected. And, you called it interoperability, Travis. The thing that stood out to me that I hear everywhere is truly connected workflows.
Mhm.
Like people are finally looking at connecting a workflow from end to end and eliminating as many touches as possible. That was a unique one for me to see people truly tackle. And then the last one, and I kind of have to plug what I've been doing and seeing, but I jumped on it because I think it's huge. We have to do construction different. So we're looking at teaming differently, right? Like, so Jonathan, you sat through the workshop that I did with Christina at Fab. Yep. We've all sat through what Charlie Dunn did last year. He did some of that at AGCIT Forum this year. Really looking at the fact that we're trying to change the way we do construction, but we're really playing by a set of rules and a set of innate things that don't matter and they don't apply anymore, but we haven't changed ourselves. Right. So that truly changing that is one of the other themes of getting into that uncomfortable space that I've seen. So that for me was like these cool undertones that are cool, fun, great to see.
Hey, Jeff, do you think some of the need for teams is coming out of the consolidation that's going on of a lot of these larger contractors? Because when I was talking to people, one of the things that kept coming up is, they're trying to compete against bigger and bigger sort of Goliath of contracting people that have all trades inside. So everybody's singing the same tune. If you're going to compete with them, guess what? Like, you got to learn how to work with your fellow trades as if you were in one company.
Yeah, you go to failures, right? Failures teach us so much. And I remember, we all remember Katera, right? Yep. But I learned so much from that because I remember sitting in Anaheim at the AEC Next conference years and years and years ago with a Katera person, and we were having a conversation at a table. And the teams kept saying something, and he goes, I don't have that problem. I don't have that problem. And it was all the barriers and boundaries. They had plenty of their own problems, but they didn't have the ones we did. They were all singing the same tune. That sort of stayed with me. And John, I think you're right. Like, if you're going to compete against the conglomerates, if you're going to compete against the people who have it in-house, and look, GCs are bringing it in-house, right? Mm-hmm. More and more of them are self-performing trades. If you're going to compete with that, you can't beat them at their game. You got to change the rules. Right? The rules are changed for them. It's time for you to change your rules, man. And then how do you use tech to amplify that change? Right?
Yeah.
Tech for the sake of tech sucks. It's just, it doesn't help anybody.
I agree with you because I think that the last couple of years we would definitely have seen a lot more of like a partnering mindset, especially on some of these, mega jobs or whatever is even the like from the GC end, like maybe they don't want to start to self-perform or bring that stuff in house. So they just kind of, I've heard this from a couple other GCs, like they just partner with their super subs, right? They have their
Yeah.
super subs that are in their particular regions that are really good at a particular thing. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting trend.
Yeah. John, I'm interested if any one of those, you know, for you, when you talk about the big conglomerates versus the small ones, have you seen anything successful along the way, or anybody where you think they're like, you're like, ooh, they're really kicking it. They're got something.
As far as the conglomerates, I got something. Obviously, Southland's got all kinds of juice. That boy's got a lot of juice
Right.
in him. And you know, they picked up Brant, and you're talking two of the best process. Like, I'm a process guy. For like, we don't talk about what we actually do, but most of the time I workshop and teach process. And so, like, a lot of my evaluation of people is like, does it look like you're a process driven business? Because you look like that. Like, you can look at a business and really fast see, is this a process driven business? Both of them were, which means that there's chances of success coming together super high. So I see the conglomerate starting to be super efficient. And so what do you do as the little guy? I have seen a couple little outfits start to hook up. I've seen more of this sort of, we will beat you by the peer group, which I love, because I think that can be really, really effective. I think that's ultimately, if you look at, like, if you're a giant military history buff, if you look at fighting a major competitor, you want to have small cells that are agile, that can move fast, and that talk to each other really well. You want, like, really good communication between those. So, and I'm seeing some of that start. I bet you it gets more and more developed as we move forward. I think that's also, you know, I mean, let's face it. MEP Innovation is MEP Innovation Conference now. It's all trades coming together, and I think part of that was to deal with some of these issues, and maybe even to fight the GC a little bit on the whose work is whose. And even the distributors and manufacturers now are, you know, getting to that edge of where we're looking at what they're doing and saying, is this construction that you're doing, or is this fabrication, or is this manufacturing? You know?
Starting to blur those lines a little, aren't we?
Yeah, but what do you think, Jeff? I mean, don't we don't have the manpower. We don't have the manpower. Do we need our people doing tedious stuff?
No, in fact, you know, it's something you know, again, I'm the outsider that came in and consistently has to learn that. I mean, that's why I love Fab. You know, by the way, we didn't Fab conference, first time I've ever been. I didn't realize that until after.
Yeah,
that was my first fabrication show. I have been to a ton of the MCAA events over the years, but it just has never clicked to be at Fab. So that was my first experience at Fab, which was awesome. And I think I've learned through this process too that, like, we're seeing Fab upstream in manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
We're starting to become fabrication, manufacturing. We're starting to blur those lines because we're going to have to continue to do that consistently.
Yeah. And Jeff, you know, the one thing I would say on the manufacturing side that I thought was awesome, because I have my doubts on whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, where the manufacturing was using really, really expensive high-end equipment to automate some of this just to get us a bigger Lego. I love to see that. I feel that's true manufacturing. If they're doing, like, labor intensive work to give us bigger Legos, I feel like that's doing construction. You know what I mean? So if you got a machine that's automated, that's putting out widgets that we used to fabricate or have to put together ourselves, I feel like that's fair game. And if you're just racking up cheap labor to do that, I feel like, you should try harder to find big equipment because your volume. But also, I feel like that's where you're going to get in trouble. That's where everybody's going to say, hold. You're doing what we do just for less money, you know. But and sometimes there, you know, I did run into two shops that were prototyping that way. So they were using people to do it first, and with the idea, hey, we're going to bring in major equipment to do this afterwards. But any thoughts, Travis? Because, you know, you're kind of sitting at the top of, I would say, the biggest group of manufacturing amongst the trades.
Manufacturing.
Are you constructuring or
constructuring?
Manufacturings. Yeah. No,
well,
what's your thoughts, man?
I completely agree, and I think that it is definitely, in the interesting thing to me, you know, as you step into any new role, you realize things that you probably inherently knew but never thought. So inside of SMACNA is not just contractors, right? We have full on straight sheet metal companies. So they
Yep.
do kind of straddle that line. So I completely agree with you. I think that anytime you have a particular manufacturer who's just basically shipping what's just going to be shown up to be installed, you're starting to really you're going to be button heads.
Yeah.
But if you provide products that can then be constructed into a building process, that's where you're providing the additional value because and it's not just construction really that has the labor shortage, right? It's all the way down the chain. So there has to be that way for us all to work together to kind of spread that burden out, I would think. And I think that you hit the nail on the head there, Jonathan. Like, just give me a bigger Lego piece. I will take it from here.
Yep.
You get really good at doing that part. I will continue to be really good at doing my part once you hand it off. But when you try to step into my area, that's where we're going to have really big problems. And it is back to well, follow on that, and then back to the construction or to the technology thing. Like then we have to for in the worlds that we play in, like then you have to go back to labor, and you have to kind of get labor to, we're not taking your jobs. We're not, robots aren't taking our jobs kind of thing. It's like, okay, well, like, let's have some very real conversations about just what it is we're trying to inject into the process to make the workforce that we have, because it's not going to get any bigger. It's only going to
Yeah.
contract based on everything that we're seeing. So how do we inject the right kind of technology, the right amount of technology into augmenting that workforce to produce as much as it can? Because we hinted at it earlier, like there's a lot of contractors in a lot of areas that are turning down work, and that's not even in what is being said as probably a downturn in the economy. Like contractors are turning down work,
Yep.
and that's going to put a premium on good ones. But it's also going to probably make owners have to rethink, like, how badly do I really need this thing done? And I don't know what that's going to do to the market.
I mean, I know a lot of contractors that are bidding high with the idea
Mhm.
they're not going to get the work, and then they're like, "Oh no, I got the work. I didn't mean to get the work. I don't know what to do." I have somebody I'm working with that I kind of like their idea, so I'm gonna throw it out. They just bought Trade Hounds. They signed with another influencer that does electrical training with Electricians U, and I was like, so what's the concept here? And the concept was, how fast can we train? Because if we can train on demand, we have a bigger labor force. And I don't think that this applies as much to union labor as it does to general
Mhm.
labor. This is, obviously if you're an electrician, you need to be licensed and everything else. But if you're going to accelerate the buildup of labor force, you have to accelerate training. And right now, most people, it's on-demand training. So, I saw them getting ahead of this. I saw a couple other people on the mechanical side starting to look at getting ahead of that curve of, how do we train people faster? Because there are people coming in, it's just training them up doesn't happen overnight or over several nights or over several years, and is there something that can act as that chatbot assistant, or that assistant that
Yeah.
gives people that force multiplier on the training side, so that the labor we do have is more wicked and able to handle more types and environments of work. So it was when you're talking about trends, that one was one that I did not see coming, but I did, like, after talking to a couple people and the people who bought Trade Hounds and that, I realized, oh my gosh, you guys are actually like strategically deciding that you think that we should be training everybody as fast as possible. Like, yeah, we did. Why are we not doing more of this?
Right.
But did you see anything? Jeff talked about his down low, or are you guys seeing anything that's similar on the training and labor side?
Travis, I don't know about you, but interestingly that I didn't bring it up as one of my highlights, because it is an undertone, and I'll be honest, I've been trying to be analytical about this one and make sure that it's not our echo chamber, right? Like all of our social medias and even the conference circuit, right? It's still, you have to kind of look around and you're in somewhat of an echo chamber. So you got to be a little bit careful. But I do feel like for the first time, it's probably way farther off in our world that the labor shortage, training, lack of bringing new people into our industry and socializing that and getting it back to the high schools and getting it back to the elementary schools and changing that view of us as an industry, that has been a big undertone. But I have yet to decide, and Travis, maybe you have an opinion on this, or John, you do, that if that's my own echo chamber because I've been chasing it, or if it's truly changing. And I wasn't ready to say it is or not. I don't have the data, so I'm not willing to go out on that limb yet.
I would just say, go ahead, John.
I just stood up because the second you said high school, I thought of Angie and Heavy Metal Academy.
Yep,
and
exactly.
I just wanted to stand up and show a shirt and the amount of support for what Angie is doing and for what those kids are doing. So if anybody doesn't know what's going on, they have set up with the contractors. Is it a 1 week? Who knows?
No, it's a whole summer, I think.
Whole summer, yeah.
Summer. Yeah.
Oh man, just to bring in kids, have them work on projects, have them learn how to build stuff. You know, the lack of shop classes, man, give me more heavy metal. You know what I'm saying? But
right. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's crazy you say that. I rode home. See, I said it again. I went to a hotel and called it home. I rode back on the bus with Angie because she got a huge shout out at Groundbreak around heavy metal. And I'm going to go, Travis, you talk about it. I'm going to go get the website so folks can, it's hmse.org. You guys have to check it out. It's the heavy metal summer experience. Angie's thrown everything into this and is really growing it. And it's super cool. I love it. Raise the rebar for 2024 is their calling card on top.
It's badass. She's really done a great job with that program. She's really growing it. Quick side note when we're talking about conferences, then, so when I park at the airport, I take a picture of the aisle number in the elevator I get on and off of. If you're familiar with O'Hare, I have now had to start taking a picture of my hotel room door and the number, so I remember which hotel, because I think like a lot of us in MEP, MCA land, we're all Marriott people. They all kind of start to look the same. And I'm in enough of them frequently enough that I forget which hotel room I'm in on particular nights. So little tip there for conference goers. But to continue back on that thought, I think that what so another major theme, obviously for good reason, is the DE&I conversations we're having. But I think, to your point, Jeff, one of the unintended consequences is people in putting these programs together. It's like, okay, well, if we want more diversity, we just have to open the funnel even more, and you're drawing more people in general, right? That's how you're going to capture, hopefully, that diversity that you're looking for. So there is a lot of those conversations having about, and it's, I hate it because it does sound a little bit weird, but it's like, how do I get middle schoolers interested?
Yes.
How do I get grade school? I mean, and we come from a generation where, like, in high school, you're kind of supposed to figure out what you want to be. Well, now it's like, yeah, by the time you're in junior high, middle school, my they're already asking my daughter at school, like, okay, what career paths and stuff do you want to be on? It's like, I'm in 8th grade. Like, I don't know. My dad's 47. He still hasn't figured out yet.
And no, influencer cannot be your answer.
That's right. Exactly. TikTok.
Speaking as an influencer in the industry, which is quite funny that I will say that, but it's like, you have to have something before you get there. Like, you have to have a trade to get annoyed at before you can be an influencer. I feel like that has to be your path to resistance.
I do think my best conversation on IDE was on the contact crew, Jeff, with Henry Nutt.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
you know what I'll tell you what was different. I have run into a lot of people that are looking at inclusion, equity, and diversity and everything, and they're talking about what you need to do to meet government requirements, not what you need to do to have a diverse and anti-fragile company. Like the a number of things that a company that implements a program that really drives diversity achieves is truly wonderful. And we don't talk about that. We talk about,
yeah.
oh, you got to hit your numbers, and I
Well,
think
so
Henry did an awesome job of that on the contract crew back then.
I need to go back through some of my podcasts that I recently listened to, because one of the points that they made about those like government mandates and stuff is a lot of those companies that used to qualify for those things no longer qualify, because the good ones got really good and they grew beyond whatever percentage points that they were required to have before. So now they no longer qualify for those contracts, and you're kind of back to, okay, now who's available to do this thing?
Yeah, and it's funny because Henry's led right into Dr. Giovanni Brassfield's, and her whole take for me that Henry's was awesome, but she really brought it around from a business lens in a way that when you're building out project teams can look at some of those requirements and go into the neighborhoods, go into the areas that they're impacting, and leverage those areas and those people to not only help the project but grow the workforce in general, and then use it as a business tool. And she's like, I would hate to like, the term that came to my head was weaponizing it, but it was businessifying it. Like, it was taking DEI and making it like, hey, here's a way to actually make this into a strategy that she's built a business around consulting teams and doing. That's the transformative. But I think, Travis, you may be hearing when we talked to her about that, where it was
Might have
like,
been it.
Sometimes the growth isn't a great thing because they grow out of it.
Right.
And you're like, wait, I don't think that's what it was meant to do in the end. But
Right.
there's a lot to that. Like, it's that has to have been an undertone for the year. And I think people like Henry and Dr. G and a couple of others that are really turning it into a business model and helping make positive impact and make change is really, I mean, that's a powerful movement itself.
Yeah, man, it's always that trick of turning something that's required into something that's desired. I mean, and we saw that with BIM when it first started out. Like the people that are really mature with BIM and VDC, they started it out to make money. I didn't draw the whole building. I drew just enough to make money on it when I started drawing. And then it was a requirement, and everybody drew everything, which made it impossible to like focus in on what made money. Like, so you're drawing the entire building now, but you're making no money on it because you can't focus on the areas where really it drives improvement and profitability and everything else. I feel like that happened a little bit with the diversity and everything, where it's like the companies that understood this could be a weapon and this could be used to drive value in their business kind of are like, oh crap, now I have all these quotas and I can't really just look at what makes sense. So I'm hoping that we get very quickly beyond that to where it's just a natural part of good strategy.
Right. Yep.
To see that happen. I don't doubt that that's going to happen relatively soon. Just because it's just so hard to fight against good, smart companies and good strategy. It just is.
Good strategy makes good sense. And that speaks to good culture, right? I think that's one of the other unique conversations to hear that I think still in the construction side in its infancy is culture. Is really, what does that mean? I don't think it's defined well yet for our industry. I certainly don't believe it's evenly distributed.
No.
I think I'll probably out a few people here, but I won't tell them who. I won't tell anybody who on LinkedIn that I've been talking to recently, but I am realizing that cultural wealth in construction is not evenly distributed. And you have, in my opinion, 3 camps. You have the truly gets it, truly is using it, believes in it, believes it that it will help them in 5 and 10 years down the road, to still be a viable business and probably be a leader. Then you have 25% that I think so I think first 25% is doing that. The other 25% sees it as a marketing and recruitment opportunity, possibly even a sales opportunity when it comes to who they're going to partner with. But that's all it is. And then on the underside, it's kind of still business as usual. I don't know that they're reticently against it. They're just not, they're using it for sales and marketing and that kind of thing. And then you have 50% that's quietly hoping this whole thing goes to hell in a handbasket and can just go screw. And that's the scary part to me, because like there's some wealth in that top 25 that gets it. And I'm not for wealth redistribution. I'm a capitalist, but damn, I wish culture redistribution was a thing. Because that 50%, in my opinion, is still really hurting the industry as a whole.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I don't think people like we're all on the tech side. Me and Travis both used to work for contractors, and I had contractors come up and say, "Well, how can I keep my guys from going to software or going to consulting? You know, because all of the money there." And I'm like, "Man, I've talked to almost everybody that comes in. I can't tell you the one that came in for money. They all came in because there was a culture that either couldn't take them any further, so they needed more influence over other contractors, or there was a bad culture. So it's not, don't think that money is going to trump culture. Culture is always going to trump money. And those people within your organization that you think are leaving for money, I mean, that may make you sleep at night, but that's probably not why they left.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just, it's too big a majority. It can't be just me that sees that,
Yeah. Travis, I wonder what your thought is on that one.
Yeah, I would again echo that. Like I think that even though we always complain especially probably on the GC side the most, but like the thin margins and whatnot, but there's plenty of money to go around. Like construction has a very, very big pie. So people aren't leaving for money reasons, generally speaking, for the most part.
Yeah.
You're always going to have the people that are like, okay, you can pay me $5K a year more. I'm going to jump. But I think that the construction industry tends to attract big thinkers, big dreamers, and if they get locked in a box where they can only go so far, they're going to look for those opportunities where they can try to do more.
We like to find big dreamers and crush those dreams.
That's right. Right. I'm going to take this person who wants to build skyscrapers, right? I'm going to put them in a tiny trailer and make them do paperwork all day.
Yes.
And then I'm going to slap them when they get outside of their given area. But we brought them in because they're innovative and they think differently. Right. And then as soon as they think differently, they don't fit. We're going to slap them around. Yeah. I don't know what's that? That's the insanity definition, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, we're all nerds. I was thinking about this because we were talking about it before we turned on the recording. We were talking about, hey, what's like the maker culture? What's the culture of nerd? Because I'll tell you what, most of the companies that are high corporate, when they look at what they're having trouble doing with innovation, it's because you have a culture that really scares away people that are creative. Because to be creative, you got to fail a lot, an awful lot, and you got to fail fast. And I do wonder if, Jeff, like you said, as companies start to look at the culture that they need to build a solid platform business, if they'll start to look at, that more startup, more maker style culture is something that they now need to have. I know, Benham was great about saying you need your mad scientists, and literally about showing you, hey, here's the culture that my mad scientists have in order to mad scientist. And Jeff, you were definitely part of that culture as a former mad scientist with James Benham. What do you think, man? Do you think there's room for that? Because that is one place where I feel I should live, and I'm afraid it's going to go away someday.
It's scary if you think it will go away, because I don't think it I don't think it can go away. I think it needs to mature. So I had it on my notes. I have a couple things on my notes that I wanted to talk about. It's funny that you went back to the mad scientist, because I actually helped, James built that, but we helped teach it and preach it. And I actually think we did the industry a disservice in articulating it the way we did and creating the construction technologist title, right? We created another glass ceiling for people to break through. Like you get to this glass ceiling and you're in this box, right? We created this box. And this is something I've been kind of mulling over and talking to other people about is it's got to be more over into operations now. Like there's this idea of operational excellence and moving the technologists over into a space where they have room to make, right? They have room to be mad scientists. They have areas to focus on in the business, but the things that they do are connected to outcomes in construction, in the field, wherever they might be. If you're thinking on the MEP side of things, looking at designing the right things to create, design for manufacturing, DFMA type stuff. Or if you look on like the GC side of things, it's about how do we team better up front? How do we organize better? Maybe how do we schedule better? Certain things like that have to then be connected to operations. So you have to have a place to fail, a place to build, but a place to go.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my thought.
I think the place to go is important. I was thinking through a lot about what you were saying too, is like, I think that, and to Jonathan's point, like, I think that maybe sometimes like the type of people that are into these roles, like they're going to want to improve. They're going to want to push. They're going to want to be allowed to fail. They're going to complain. They're going to complain a lot. And they're going to ask a lot. They're the 5 whys. I always joke about the 5 whys and doing stuff in construction. Is like we ask the people like us ask why so much that it's annoying. Like it just makes people mad. And I think that to Jonathan's point, I think that there's a little bit of a fear right now that we're gonna burn people out on us, like the innovation wheel. And I think that's a real concern. And I don't want to shut down, because I as I continue this rambling thought, like one of the things that was always taught to me as an NCO when I was in the guard was like, if you don't need to worry about it when your men are bitching, you need to worry about it when they stop. And that's when everybody starts to leave and you start to have problems. So how do you build that culture where the people like us are allowed to ask a lot of questions and complain about the way things are? Because I think that a lot of us just do that as part of our thinking process, as part of our process to try to drive some sort of change.
Yeah, and you're even making me rethink it, John. Your head nods. So anybody who's driving, John was giving me the side eye there. We can't lose our tinkerers either, right? Like it can't all be structure. We need structure in areas to make it, I think, efficient for the business and for leadership, current leadership. I think future leadership will understand this a little bit better as we go through the tinkering. But, I remember back to like touring an electrical fabrication facility in Denver, and like they were talking about bending pipe, and bending one pipe at a time wasn't saving them any money, but there was no multi-pipe bender back then. And one of their guys fabbed one.
Yeah.
And it's like those tinkerers, those crazy, freaky people, we need them. And we need them to have space to do that. So it can't all be structure. I just think there has to be a structured funnel somewhere.
I totally agree with you, Jeff. I always have thought like you need 2 champions to bring any technology into a business. And one of the champions needs to be the tinker, and the other one needs to be a process-driven, detail-oriented person. And if you don't you're not going to turn a tinker into detail-oriented purpose. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
Like
why
literally,
not?
I don't know, man. It's like it is definitely. I mean, it is not something where I am not. How about this? I am not operationally fluid. Okay, I'm not going to move over and suddenly be good at operations. It ain't going to happen. I mean,
I
we
haven't
need
seen
to
the movie, so I'm
travel.
thinking of Einstein and Oppenheimer. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
We need to move around the country. We need some sort of thing that's a square peg, round hole, and just hammer on it everywhere we go. Because it's like, okay, and if any of you get this joke, and you can drop me a line on LinkedIn or anywhere, I'll give you credit for it. Maybe I'll give you something when I see you out on the road if you can tell where I got this from. But that we do this constantly. It's like, you're a great farmer, right? You are so great, or you're a great chef, right? You make such good meals. Can you farm?
Yep.
It's like, wait a second.
right.
That no, I can't. Like, you're asking me to be, and we recruited you because you're a great chef. And we're like, oh yeah, by the way, grow all your own food. And you're like, and if either of you can get that reference, then go for it. But
hey, I gotta tell you, I also would like, when you guys came out with Contech, I thought I knew what it went. And I started to actually, I tried. I made the attempt to change the definition a little bit. To sort of like I tried to argue that your Contech should be an HR manager for your technology workforce. So if you think about all your technology as people, your construction technologist, he's your HR manager, right? He hires, he trains, he integrates them with your process. Does he manage them? Hell no. HR people are horrible managers. Well, like, don't do that. So, and if he's the manager, now he can't do his HR job anymore. It's because the best contexts that I've seen that are stuck and like really stuck are the ones that had great ideas that have to babysit them for the rest of their existence at that company. And you're like, so what have you been up to? He's like, nothing. What are you doing? I said, same thing. I'm just babysitting the job. Does it need any more work?
Oh.
No, not really, but I got to babysit it because we can't get it implemented.
You go from innovator to tech support, right? I mean, that's kind of where you move it.
So you need to.
It's interesting too that you bring that up, and we're talking about the construction technologist like title. I probably in the last 3 or 4 weeks have taken maybe that many, 3 or 4 emails and phone calls. Like, and we were both part of these, or all part of the same sort of group that had the same sort of things. Like, what do you think a job posting for this would be like? What do you think a job description for this would be like? And what is the salary range for this? And all of my responses to the requests have actually been different. And because it's like every time I iterate through this in my mind, it's like, well, it's this and this and this, or this and this and this, or this and this and this. It's kind of like it all did. And to my former boss, Jeff Catchup at the Helm Group, he made the point, like, you don't put this position together and go advertise it for it. You have a general idea of what you want as an outcome. Then you find the person, and the position molds itself to that person. And that, I think that's what I did fairly well at the Helm Group. And I think that other companies that are looking for this, it's like, okay, I want, and they have to be really like 3 or 4, probably very broad, vague bullet points of what you want out of that construction technologist. Yeah. And then you hire yourself a Jeff sample and you figure out what you got.
Yeah. I was just thinking what those job descriptions should look like. Do you want to make a ton of money looking for this background? We're going to pay you this much to come in and build an alpha program and spend the rest of your life supporting it.
That's right.
How many of our contacts do we know did that? Like, they came in and they're like, look, I made this thing work. And they're like, okay, give it to everybody and just support it. And you're like, no, wait a second.
No, right. No.
Wait. And John, that's where our original argument came from, right? Between you and I was like, you're like Contech, and I'm like IT, and you're like, you don't know nothing. And I'm like, no, you don't know nothing. And it was like, oh, actually, we're both wrong. Like, we need people that can scale things, that are supportable, and that go down a route of enterprise and scale. But we need tinkerers and thinkers, because those same people that do things at scale, like me, we never look outside the bounds. I'm not going to tinker with something because tinkering doesn't scale.
Right.
But if a tinkerer doesn't find it and doesn't play around with it and doesn't then get it to somewhere where somebody like me or software folks or hardware folks can come along and scale it, it's actually never going to happen. So it seems like some of them have one without the other. You know, they're both.
You do kind of need both, right? You need the person or
Yeah.
the group of people that help build the Toyota that runs really efficiently. But the others also the other person is like, it's not really super aerodynamic. Like if we did these 4 or 5 different things here, you need both of that. Both of
Yeah.
those.
That's what we
Yeah,
should
and
be.
that's the
We should
40%, right,
start.
Travis?
Right. Right. Right.
We should start the construction technology matchmaking. And do you have a tinkerer? Do you need a scale? You two should meet.
I'll tell you what, you can. I met a guy at Nika, walks up, starts looking at what I did for a process map, and then starts talking robots with me. And within like 30 minutes, we're down to like actually comparing notes on how to make the drone and how to do this and how to do that. I'm like, okay, anybody need a construction technologist? Because I have one right here. This will be your tinker. Like, just come over here. You can just hire this guy. I guarantee you, you will be successful with him. So I think one when you see one, right? Because there's this drive that's there to not just solve a problem, but to really expand the possibilities as they're doing that.
Yeah.
I think we all know, like in our friend group, we know those 5 people who should be a construction technologist.
Yeah. And we know the ones I think that are better for scale.
Right.
So I think there's that. I think there's one more point though I want to hit before we do have to talk about the future, right? It's halftime, man. We're only at halftime. We haven't even talked about the second half, man. We're the halftime show that can't stop looking backwards and complaining. But we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the state of venture capital in the world.
Oh yeah.
You just had a really interesting podcast that you released about that. I'd like you to elaborate a little bit more, please.
So I will be honest and very transparent in this journey of technology and construction technology. A lot of my experience was larger companies, bootstrapped. You know, my days with Benham, he's a bootstrap guy. If you didn't know that, he wrote a book. And venture capital has always been a unique thing that I know some about, but not enough. And if you haven't watched or been listening into the crew, I had KP Reddy on from Shadow Ventures. We actually recorded that a little while ago before going into the conference season. So I kind of went in with this playbook and this idea. And man, these are strange times. Right? Money has been free for 10 years and it's no longer free. And the stakes have changed. The game has changed. We're going to see a lot of carnage in unfortunately very short period of time. But I honestly think it's actually really good for the industry in general. And this is where I have to be careful, Travis, because I did the show with KP a couple of months ago, but I've had a ton of conversations with not only him, but others on just what we don't understand and where the construction technology market has not matured. And we really don't understand ourselves. We have an identity crisis, and it's showing itself in a investment and failed startups, or failed's the wrong word. I mean, like just not reaching unrealistic goals, if that's a failure.
Yeah.
Right.
I was with you there. Like the products that are coming out are not what's failing. What's failing is a business model, a marketing model, and all of this. And I think actually an overabundance of money hasn't been helpful.
No.
Right.
I think
I would agree with that. I think that you're probably going to see a lot of contraction because, how many of a certain particular type of solution do we really need? Like,
correct.
And a consolidation.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. The war is on. I mean, in some respects, a lot of the great technology that you've seen, and this I did know about it, is a lot of the great technology that you've seen and are accustomed to is actually acquired and integrated into systems. You know, that was I had Wyatt Jenkins on the show, and then he had a podcast with the Bricks and Bytes guys from Groundbreak, and he really talked about acquiring technology as an organization. Procore really looks at, sometimes they'll tear it all the way down and reintegrate it in so that it fits the flow and that it works, right? So that consolidation is going to happen. There's a lot of great tech out there, but it's a natural contraction.
Right.
And I think ultimately, too, you're going to see a new set of investors come in. That's the other interesting thing I'm seeing is I think some of the investors were like, I don't think that, I don't think that's going to work the way you think it's going to work. I don't think that you keep using that word, but I don't think it means what you think it means. And ultimately, the next set of and I don't want to call them mature because I don't want to downplay anybody that's in there. Like KP's been around for a long time, and he has a very different view on the way they work with founders, the way they work with startups, what they're looking for, what type of change they're looking for. I think a lot of the investments and LPs that are out there right now have really been hopeful and wanted this change. And sometimes hope's not the greatest thing because you get a little blind.
I really think that what has happened, that the downside, there's been a lot of upsides, but one of the bad downsides of them, the VC market, is there are a lot of jobs that we need done by technology that aren't sexy. And they are not getting the money that they need because there's a lot of jobs out there that are sexy that are getting it, and you look at how much money goes into something like augmented reality versus money that's going into statusing of materials.
Right.
We have a lot of unsexy jobs that need done. And when they look at those, what are you not doing now that you could do with technology? Forget that. I want to do what I'm doing now better, faster, and
That's
more
always
organized.
that's always the battle and the conversation, right? Is like the shiny thing versus like, how can I block and tackle better?
Yes. Yeah. And guess what? You're going to make more money on the block and tackle than you are on the shiny new thing. But the VC investor is not going towards the block and tackle. It's taking the shiny.
Right.
Yeah. But I think this next round of investors is.
I hope they are. I really hope they are. I think that there's space for them for sure. I think that you're, like you said, I think that contractors are getting more mature. They're saying, hey, we're not looking for our problems to be solved. We're looking for our jobs to get done. And I think the danger is the level of marketing money that's out there right now makes it very difficult to see what's going on. I was telling you earlier, I read through, I think it was like 800, and I'm not exaggerating, people, like 800 descriptions of companies. And most of the marketing description was, we'll save you 50% on your construction costs. We'll help your construction company be more efficient. And it's like, they don't tell you even what they're doing anymore. So I feel like hopefully that next generation of investors will know we really do the jobs that the contractor needs done, and we'll communicate that well, and we'll stop having as much of this sort of choose your own adventure, imagine your own app, and that's what we are type marketing.
Maybe the next generation of construction technologists not only needs to ask 5 whys, but 5 hows.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you hit on what I think I want to twist us and take us into the future too, is I do believe that we're going to see the maturity of construction's ability to control innovation and technology and apply it better, right? There is a whole group of people. How many people have come up to you? And I had this unique opportunity for a couple of my former clients to find me on this run this year and say, hey man, we've been using some of those tools and techniques that you helped and trained us on, and they're really driving change and they're really helped us. And it took a while, but we just wanted to let you know that, like, you were here, you helped us, we've been following and grinding. And it's working. And so I think that's coming too, is a maturity of the other side of, we were chasing shiny tech tools, and shiny is cool. Like HoloLenses are awesome. Robots are slick. AI is cool to say, but really, like, we're going to mature. And I think, for me, as we head down the road, and I'll let you guys kind of go through yours as well, but of course, I probably have the longer run coming here because it's,
I think you do.
halftime for me. So my next event, I'll be at LCI, the Lean Congress. This will be my first ever at LCI. So if you're an LCI person and you're listening in, look forward to it. I'm actually doing an opening day workshop with Charlie Dunn. I'm just going to be a lackey helping him out as usual. And I'll be there for a few days. So for the conference, so looking forward to that. I think that leans to process taking over. I mean, we hear about lean. I think it's about lean construction, though. Like the separation of church and state, manufacturing and construction. They're two separate things. And I'm learning this. I'm just a plebe, so don't grill me there. Don't kill me. But I'm a believer that there's a lot to learn there. I'm going to be at the ICBA in Vancouver, which is actually a banking association, but they do and lend to a lot of construction. They're having a huge construction conference, and I'm going to be talking about pre-con. Obviously a world I'm super excited about. And I think leans to, you want to fix a job and you want to fix construction. We all have to start at the earliest phases, right? You can't, I think the trades have been chasing the crumbs, as it was stated, for a really long time, because you guys have had to, because there's just not enough labor. So it's like what, your design there, when we look at the McClemmy curve, Jonathan, how current VDC is, picking up the crumbs way down the line. We need to move into more of a DFMA where we're up front. The way to do that is for pre-con to mature in a way that facilitates more of that design for manufacturing and assembly and early involvement in the future, et cetera. Then I'm going to be live actually next week, but it's live-ish with the Faro Signals conference. And then I will be at DBIA, which is going to be awesome because our friend Brian Skripak is doing DBIA's VDC Leadership Exchange, an opening half day focused on BIM and VDC for the DBIA community. So if you're going to be at DBIA and you're interested in BIM and VDC, you should come join us for a half day. And then I'll be at the rest of the DBIA show. And then, hey, it wouldn't be a year if we weren't at AU. So I'll be at AU this year. And it's back in Vegas. So Sin City, here we come. And Travis, I'll have to be looking at that bottle you got there and figure out what I'm going to get. So that's my run for the next, I don't know. It's going to be done quick, but it's going to be done.
It's kind of funny that you say Sin City, not to disparage any particular city, but the last AU was at a much more sinful city. Just gonna leave that.
I want to go see that dome, man. I looked at where we are.
Cool.
Yeah. That thing looks cool. Awesome. Do you see the pictures of you two kicking that thing off, man?
It looks very cool. Unfortunately, so I'll take the segue then, and that leads me into my future schedule. I will be missing it. So I have the SmackDown National Convention here coming up in a couple of weeks. The same time, I think you said you were doing the Signals conference. And then actually I am going to go down, and at the end of October, I will be speaking at the Pinnacle BIM Summit, which is my sorry, distracted for a second.
So where are you speaking, Travis? I did that too. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to throw off your friends. It's just too much.
The Pinnacle BIM Summit in, I gotta look up. I think it's in Houston coming up. So my first opportunity to speak about shiny toys a little bit of AR, VR, and some practical applications there. And then I have the week of the week that you're going to be at AU, actually, the first part of that week, I'm going to be at the Fabrication Forum, the first fabrication forum that SmackDown has ever held. So, looking forward to that. Trying to take some lessons from the rest of the industry and open up a sheet metal shop that is fantastic. If you've never heard of Pointer Sheet Metal,
Wow,
you
yeah,
should
actually, they are
check,
fantastic.
check those guys out. They're doing some pretty amazing things in Indianapolis. So looking forward to being a part of that event. And then actually, I think most of the rest of my travel is more SmackNA related, so more membership and council and committee stuff. But of course, we're all going to get back together again at the end of January for the MEP Innovations Conference, which
Yeah.
is, you know, it is still by far my favorite conference, and not just because that's where I get to hang out with all my friends. Like we talked about it earlier, this whole MEP thing. Like I feel like there might be something there. Like I think that we might be better together. So
Better together. I like that.
I think I stole that from Todd Wyant, actually, from MEP Force. Sorry. Whoops. But anyway, yeah, that's where I'll be. I have to, after listening to your episode with KP Reddy, I have to maybe implore Autodesk a little bit. I think he did a little bit of that in his conversation. Bring back the construction day to Autodesk University.
Yeah,
Bring
it
back
needs to
the
come back.
construction focus.
It needs to come back.
It's you're missing out. I think it was well attended. I think that the community got a lot out of it, and I think that Autodesk got something out of it. So
yeah,
I'm done.
Yeah. Soapbox removed. Jonathan, where are you headed, my man?
So other than innovation, I am traveling, but I've been doing I did a big process VDC and BIM for me, MCA with MCA, and then I did one of the project life cycles with Nika, and because of that, I'm actually designing one for MSCA, so for the service contractors, which is really interesting. Can we capture the process and sub processes and everything around how service works? And it's actually, so process is so geeky, I don't even talk about it on the show, but like 90% of where I spend my time on these things is on teaching people how to do process, so I can then like find out the technology. Like once you're done with the process, people out there, we can build a technology, or we can find you a technology, but no process, no tech. So I'm going to be going down to MSCA to do a workshop, kind of develop on the service process that we have, which is actually really weird because they do emergency work versus contract work versus ongoing work, and just a very different workflow than what I'm seeing in other contractors. And then I'm flying out to Chicago to sit down with manufacturers and distributors. And the manufacturers and distributors have decided they want to look at architects' process, engineers' process, contractors' process, distributors' process, and manufacturers' process all at the same time, and try to figure out what's broke. So we're going to do what has to be, I love Nathan Wood calls his value streams. He calls them anchors and rockets. And I love that term.
To rockets.
Yes, anchors to rockets is kind of like I obviously have to be somewhat more lean conscious because I'm working with manufacturers who want lean approved terminology. But so I'm going to go do anchors and rockets at 5 different flow maps at the same time. So that should be cool. I'm also running out to St. Louis to do a private session workshop with some of them out there on process. But after that, I have this neat little development job that I am doing for a major plumbing manufacturer that I have wanted to get to all year. So I am going to turn off all of my conference stuff and go build new toys for the industry
You get to build shit
for a quarter.
Oh,
I know. I get to build stuff every once in a while. It's so fun.
Go build
still get to make
things.
sausage.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'll be really interested to look at the one where you're going into the deep dive of all those areas. I think that's one of the big frontiers. That's why I call it pre-con, but it's really it's really early teaming and early collaboration to kind of get over the hurdles, because I think they're going to find out that there's a lot of shit we could do a lot better.
Oh yeah,
think?
dude. And you know what? I only, you know what the big value for me is? I get to look at everything from everybody's point of view. We had a room. We had this cool room. I got to give this to Josh Bone. He and Tim Spino. They brought together this cool room of all of these different personas: the engineer persona, the architect persona, the manufacturer, the distributor, the manufacturer's rep. And I told them. They said at the end, they're like, "What was the best thing you got?" I said, "Empathy." I have
Yeah.
empathy for you all. If you all, and I know you have empathy now for the engineer, the architect, and the contractor. I said, if we could do workshops that just built empathy for one another, we would find the solutions we're looking for. Because
those are though, to give Nathan a plug, that is what he does. I mean,
shared
that
pains,
is what the
shared pains.
shared pain,
pains,
shared
exactly.
gains, shared risk, shared rewards.
Yep.
You know, geez, Nathan, we're gonna have to pay you again.
That
Yeah,
was
no,
always one
his-
of my favorite things when I was doing consulting on the software side. Is like one of my favorite things is just back to the Wizard, the Wizard of Oz, like pulling back the curtain,
yeah.
like seeing what's back there. It's and and I will tell everybody that's listening, even the billion-dollar insurance companies run stuff on Excel and are extremely fucked up. Like that's
Mhm.
it's a little bit scary, but that teaches you the empathy. Like everybody is dealing with problems. Everybody has pains.
The world runs on software that's not quite there yet, and underneath it all, there's an Excel spreadsheet holding everything up. Two honorable mentions, and if you're going to them, then call us and let us know. I would love to get somebody who goes to RCN, the Reality Capture Network.
Yes.
None of us are going to that,
No,
and
no.
I think we have friends that are going to be there. Like, I know I have friends that are going to be there, but if you're one of those people, like, reach out to one of us and like connect, come on the show and tell us about it. And then Trimble Dimensions, should have talked about that one. I got some of my
For sure.
teammates that are going to be there, so Trimble Dimensions is going to be a big one, and I'm going to have hopefully an episode on the crew talking about it pretty soon. So those are the two honorable mentions I can't be at. Unfortunately, we have not figured out, well, actually, fortunately, have not figured out how to split atoms yet of ourselves and be in two places at once. I don't think I can do any more conferences.
Just
We're
clone
training the
yourself.
AI based on your shows, Jeff. You're the only
Right,
one
there
of
you
us
go.
that's been online enough that we can make a compelling AI to represent you when you're not
Have
there.
you listened to
And
the
anybody listening who heard that is got to be scared to death that there will be more of me. I just
well, I was going to say, have you
It's
listened
enough.
to the Lex Friedman podcast with Zuck? That one was a little scary.
No, I
They
haven't.
did it in the metaverse. They did all the scans. He was talking about all the things that they were going to be able to do, and I'm like, holy shit, it's the Matrix.
It
Well,
is.
we're already in it. We just don't know.
Right.
And
Jeff,
we
only
can-
rich people think that. I'm just saying.
what?
Everybody who thinks they're in the Matrix right now, all of those are rich people, okay? Because poor people know they ain't in the Matrix. All right? They're pretty damn sure.
This steak tastes like shoe leather. I'm not
That's
living
right.
in the Matrix,
Right.
baby.
I am not in the Matrix. I have some situations to go over with you.
Yeah,
No.
that's yeah. I do end in reality. Yeah, way too often. Well, boys, it's been a fun show. Trent, we missed you. May you
Also pour a little bit out, right?
I drank it all, so I'm hydrated. So here's to hydration. And well, that's it. This was episode 71, 3 Dorks. It was conference halftime. Looking forward to seeing you guys in the second half. Tap us on the shoulder, talk to us. Jonathan, have a whole lot of fun going out there and tinkering and getting some stuff done. And if we don't see you guys before, can't wait to see everybody at MEP Innovations. What I believe is the kickoff to the year to get the year started on the right foot. So we'll see you all at MEP Innovations. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for tuning in.